So I've set the stage for you. You know that these books exist and that they look pretty cool, but are they actually any good? How do they compare to the games? This is Ocarina of Time we're talking about here. We're all familiar with it. The game needs no introduction. So rather than going in and giving you a deep dive analysis on the plot or themes or whatever, I'm going to cover this one by taking you through it and shedding some light on some of its more unique aspects. The transition from video game to manga brings with it a lot of little changes and tweaks to what we know. The most obvious change is that Link is now a fully speaking character with emotions. This brings a whole new level of expression to the character, which we wouldn't see in the games until Wind Waker. And while Link did speak on occasion, it was always through brief moments of player-chosen dialogue, usually in the form of a yes or no question. Now, he just talks the same as anyone else would. He is still a bit of a blank slate like in the original game, but is now way easier to connect with. A lot of effort is put into humanizing Link. He's treated like an outcast by the rest of the Kokiri, and he has this ambition to leave the forest and see the bigger world. There's also some great chemistry with him and Saria in this version. Another change fans will notice are all the different ways Link gets his items. In the original, the slingshot was found inside the Deku Tree, and it was the key item you needed to solve puzzles and navigate whilst inside. In the book, Link made it himself. In the game, getting the sword and shield served as your tutorial. You needed both of them in order to leave the starting area. In the book, the Kokiri sword belongs to Mido, who tags along with Link to help defeat Goma. After the fight, Link borrows the sword to carve out his shield from the remains of the Deku Tree, which is when Mido tells him to just keep it for himself. The pacing is brisk. Goma's defeated by page 29, and shortly after, Link hitches a ride through Hyrule Field, arriving in the Castletown Market. Taken aback by the bustling city and all of the new food there, Link starts hogging everything down in sight. And it's then revealed that in this version, Link has no concept of money, and when he isn't able to pay for his food, the townsfolk get a hold of him and swipe the Kokiri Emerald as collateral. This is when a strangely rich little girl steps in and bails him out. They run off together, and once Link explains his quest, she cuts him a deal. Basically telling him that if they go on a date, she'll take him to go see the princess. I'm sure you can tell where this is going. So they hang out for a while, which is a really clever way of including the minigames in this story, by the way. And that's when they're attacked by a group of Gerudo soldiers. They demand that the girl with Link give them the Ocarina of Time, stating that they know who she is. Link holds them off until Impa shows up. The bandits scatter, and he turns around only to find that now he's all alone. So he finds his way to Hyrule Castle by himself, and this is when we get the big reveal. The girl was the Princess Zelda the whole time. Wow. I actually really like this change. It keeps the story moving at a brisk pace, and it allows for an actual connection to form between Link and Zelda. So they have their meeting, Link sets out to gather the rest of the spiritual stones, and the story pretty much plays out like you'd expect from here. The next two dungeon bosses are killed, Link saves Death Mountain, rescues Princess Ruto, and comes back only to find that the castle is under siege. There's a lot of really cool panels here. Hyrule guards are just straight up killed, we get to see Impa kick some ass, and Ganondorf just looks awesome while he commands his Stelphos Knights. Link desperately tries to stop Ganondorf, but of course stands no chance as he is now. The whole Link-Ganon confrontation is way more epic in this version, and it also smooths over something I really didn't care for in the original game, in that it gives a reason for why Link no longer uses the Fairy Ocarina after this point. In the video game, Link grabs the Ocarina of Time, and it just straight up overrides the old one that he got from Saria. In this version, Ganondorf mistakes his old ocarina for the Ocarina of Time, and actually steals it from him. So, battered and bruised, Link rushes out to the Temple of Time, pulls out the Master Sword, and thus, the Hero of Time is born, putting an end to the Child Arc. The next few chapters are pretty standard stuff. The Forest Temple gets sorted out, Death Mountain needs saving again, the Water Temple happens, etc. It's all pretty good stuff, but nothing you haven't heard before. But there's one thing about this section that has always bothered me, even as a kid. So during the Volvagia fight, in one of the strangest creative liberties we've seen yet, it is revealed that Link and Volvagia know each other. In the original, Volvagia was this ancient dragon that Ganondorf revived in order to take control of Death Mountain. This dragon had been defeated once before by an ancient Goron using the Megaton Hammer. So as the player, your job is to enter the Fire Temple, find the hammer, and use it to slay the dragon, just like in the legend. In this version, it's explained that when Link first entered Castletown, he felt sorry for a baby dragon because it was put up for sale and stuck in a little cage. So he spends all of his money to help him out, and after some shenanigans, they bond and become friends. Also, Volvagia can speak for some reason. They say that dragons can learn to repeat words, but this is the first time I've ever seen it, says Navi. So, knowing that, Link tries to get through to him, and when he can't, he shoots an arrow into his eye and cuts off his head. And in its dying breath, the severed head mutters one last word. Link. What the fuck, man? Aside from being really weird, this also introduces a plot hole. Remember, in this version of the story, Link had no concept of money when he came to Castletown. That's why Zelda had to bail him out. But now here, he's spending quite a lot of rupees on this dragon. And this isn't even a plot hole between two different volumes. All of this happens in the same book. I know. They probably made this change in order to add drama. You know, like give Link more of a reason to hate Ganon. But I feel like this could have been handled a little better. Another change, that I actually quite enjoy, is how Link gets a little training arc with Impa. They meet up at Kakariko Village where she teaches him everything she knows. And this is also where he gets his signature blue earrings. It's explained that they're a rite of passage for Sheikah men. I thought that was pretty clever. This chapter, and by extension this volume, ends off with Link taking on Dark Link on horseback. And yeah, it's about as awesome as it sounds.
Shall we see how strong you've become? How fitting that you should be brought down by yourself.
Volume 2 starts off strong with a battle at Lon Lon Ranch. Link frees Malon and Ingo from Ganon's influence while also claiming back Epona. And then we get a couple of really good chapters of Link wandering the desert. I won't go into the entire thing, but there's some really good fights in here, and the writers make excellent use of Nabooru, Ganon's second in command. Eventually, they decide to take the fight straight to Ganon's castle. The sages create a bridge, just like in the game, and it's on. So they fight it out. Link tears it up as always, and the sages seal Ganon away. As they gaze out on the horizon, Link stands at the ready to start rebuilding Hyrule. But then Zelda's like, nah, your job here is done, I don't really need you anymore, and wants to send him back in time to relive his lost childhood years. Understandably, Link is not on board with this idea. And he tries to explain that he didn't fight just because he was drawn into some conflict. He fought for her. So Zelda, just glosses over this and tells him that heroes aren't needed during peacetime, and that she has a responsibility to rule over Hyrule. Link reluctantly agrees to this and gives her the ocarina, and for just one panel, she almost looks sorry. After being sent back 7 years in time, we get this beautiful shot of the Master Sword. Navi flies off, her mission complete, and the story cuts back to Link, meeting up with Zelda as a child. Thankfully, she looks a lot more happy to see him in this timeline. Damn it, Link, this is why you should have just stuck with Malon. Or any of the other girls for that matter. You just had to go for the one that didn't love you back. So, just like the video game, the ending is bittersweet. But this is not the end of Ocarina of Time, because there's bonus chapters! There's 3 bonus chapters total, which tell 2 manga original stories. The first one takes place in the Kokiri Forest before Link meets Navi. It expands on the rivalry between Link and Mido, as they both compete for Saria, and it also sets up Skull Kid for the Majora's Mask adaptation. At least I'm pretty sure it's supposed to be the same character. In this bonus chapter, the dangerous areas of the Lost Woods are overseen by an evil Deku Tree counterpart called the Baga Tree, who's actually able to foresee that Link isn't a real Kokiri. Despite this being a really cool concept, I'm actually not going to cover it, as I think it's honestly better if you just read it for yourself. What I will cover extensively, however, is the second bonus story, Roru
of the Watarara.
Roru of the Watarara. These fucking names, man. This side story is interesting more for reasons outside of the book. More on that later. So this one centers around Prince Roru of the Watarara tribe, which is a race of migrating bird people. The prince was separated from the group, so Link is trying his best to help reunite him with his people. The catch is that everything is in a time crunch. The tribe has to leave once the seasonal wind picks up, with or without the prince. Well, in a pretty great sequence, Link is thrown off of a cliff by a flare dancer. In an effort to save Link, Roru jumps after him and sprouts his wings for the first time, the absence of which is why he was separated from the group in the first place. And while the prince isn't strong enough to save Link by himself, the fight with the flare dancer attracts his mom, who swoops in to actually save the day. There's a nice, tender little moment where the prince reconnects with his mom, and not long after that, the seasonal wind picks up, just in time for the whole tribe to take flight. So why am I putting so much attention into this side story? Well, just think about it. Bird people? Where have I heard that concept before? This got me thinking, did this writer somehow have inside knowledge on Wind Waker before this was written? I always wondered which race came first as a kid, the Rito from Wind Waker or the manga original. Well, I did some digging. This volume was released on April 26, 2000 in Japan. Wind Waker was released in 2002. But apparently, development for the game also started sometime in the year of 2000. Either way, Wind Waker wasn't revealed to the general public until Space World 2001. I'm not sure if the author was inspired by Wind Waker, or maybe Nintendo was inspired by this manga. I couldn't find anything concrete that suggests either one influenced the other, so it's probably just a coincidence. Which is what I would have said if it weren't for the absolute wizards over on ZeldaDungeon.net. These guys translated an interview between the manga's creators and Eiji Aonuma, in which they discussed their passion for the franchise, among other things. It's in this interview where Zelda's director, Eiji Aonuma himself, explains that it was Nintendo who were inspired by the manga to create the Rito tribe. Which means, case closed, the manga came first. So why am I telling you all of this? Honestly, I don't know. I just thought it was neat. In conclusion, not a bad adaptation. Strange creative liberties aside, the only thing I really have to criticize is that it could have been a little longer. I think this is worth a read for any Zelda fan. There's plenty in here that I didn't cover, so if you haven't already, check it out. That wraps up Ocarina of Time, but this is not the end for this Link. Tune in next time, and we'll see where his story truly ends. I'll see you then.